We are recording.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm so mad at myself, Kitty.
Why?
I'm so mad. I talked myself out of the proper prediction.
The proper prediction?
The correct prediction. I
you
talked
did.
myself out.
Well, there were elements there for you to do it. It's not, it was possible. But yeah, you're mad.
I'm so mad. But the interesting thing here will be that all of the things that we said to talk ourselves out or to talk myself out of the prediction, I think are still valid, which just means we have so many more questions that need to be answered.
What's new? That's the best. I love there's been sufficient answers, but that has led to more questions, which that's about it. That's how we've been experiencing this.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
But hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. For this particular series, I am joined by my wonderful co-host,
ThatDarnKitteh.
ThatDarnKitteh. And I are both going into this story completely new with almost no knowledge of the story or world.
Each segment, we intend to cover what happens in each new chapter and discuss our experience along the way. This is Mistborn Abridged, a blind read-through, and today we will be covering Chapter 38.
Chapter 38!
Final one. Well,
the last chapter minus the epilogue.
Mm-hmm.
We got a really wonderful POV that I did not expect. That POV freaked me out. Specific line, I'll call it out.
Mm-hmm. But it's cool though. That's what I would like. I'm like, it's cool.
So cool. We got a reveal.
Yes.
Many reveals.
Yes, I was going to say, I'm like, which one you want to talk about?
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't even know that I don't think that any amount of front loading will do this chapter justice.
Yeah, let's just get into it. Let's go.
Let's go. Such are my fears as I scribble with an ice-crusted pen on the eve before the world is reborn. Rashek watches, hating me. The cavern lies above, pulsing. My fingers quiver, not from the cold. Tomorrow it will end.
Okay, we know where that came from. And we also very obviously now, after having read it, you're like, oh, look, Rashek. Remember him?
Yeah, that's a guy right there.
Mm-hmm. Remember him. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, and he's just yeah.
Okay.
I don't I don't know what to say at this point.
Okay. Anything else for the
on reread? This is tragic.
Mm-hmm. Yes. There you go. I think that's a good description.
Yeah.
You don't have to put me saying it's a good description. I think we're done like either way. That's good. I agree.
What else is there to say here? Ugh.
We just want to get into it because listen, we just came off of I'm gonna go and kill the Lord Ruler. Okay, so when you're reading this, you're like, cool, thanks for the pre-chapter, blah blah, cool, let's go.
Yeah.
What's that? So let's go.
Let's go. Vin pushed herself through the air above Kredik Shah. Spires and towers rose around her like the shadowed tines of some phantom monster lurking below. Dark, straight, and ominous, for some reason they made her think of Kelsier lying dead in the street, an obsidian-tipped spear jutting from his chest. The mists spun and swirled as she blew through them. They were still thick, but Tin let her see a faint glistening on the horizon. Morning was near. Oh, morning was near, in more ways than one.
Yes, the dawn is coming.
Below her, a greater light was building. Vin caught hold of a thin spire, letting her momentum spin her around the slick metal, giving her a sweeping view of the area. Thousands of torches burned in the night, mixing and merging like luminescent insects. They were organized in great waves converging on the palace. The mists. There's very specific language in this chapter about the mists that I
Right?
noticed.
Yes.
Especially a line later about the mists not coalescing as they
Yes.
should be, or as
Yeah.
they otherwise would
As
be.
if,
Yeah.
yeah, as if something is pushing them away. We'll see. Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
The palace guard doesn't have a chance against such a force. But by fighting its way into the palace, the Scar army will seal its own doom.
She turned to the side, the mist-wetted spire cold beneath her fingers. The last time she had jumped through the spires of Credit Shaw, she had been bleeding and semi-conscious. Sazed had arrived to save her, but he wouldn't be able to help this time. A short distance away, she could see the throne tower. It wasn't difficult to spot. A ring of blazing bonfires illuminated its exterior, lighting its single stained glass window to those within. She could feel him inside. She waited for a few moments, hoping perhaps that she might be able to attack after the Inquisitors had left the room.
Kelsey believed that the 11th metal was the key.
She had one idea. It would work. It had to.
Okay, so at this point, what idea did you think it was?
I thought it was going to involve the 11th metal shadow. I thought it was going to be talking to it or making it real in some way. It was not what I thought she ends up doing.
You thought something different. Okay.
Yeah, because I remember having a visceral reaction to what her plan actually is. And I'll explain what that was when we get there.
Okay.
But I thought her plan was going to be something more than what it was.
The plan had occurred to me. I think I don't know if I even mentioned it in the previous chapter. So I was like, that can't be it as well. I was also like, nah, I don't think it's a good plan. And she's really, really, really confident about it. But I'm like, okay, whatever. That she's got a plan. I just want to see how it goes. Like at this point, the pace of everything is so heightened that there's not much time to worry about her plan. You just like, let's get to see how it goes. Because it has to work.
It has to. As of this moment, the Canton of Inquisition is granted organizational dominance of the ministry. Inquiries once addressed to Davidian should now go to Car. Dominance of the ministry, you say? Also, the territories are called dominances.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. I'm like, duh. I'm underlining.
After the fact, you realize.
Yes. On the reread, guys. It's great.
The throne room fell silent, the collection of high-ranking obligators dumbfounded by the night's events. The Lord Ruler waved a hand, indicating that the meeting was finished. Finally, Carr thought. He raised his head, his eye spikes throbbing as always, bringing him pain. But this evening it was the pain of joy. Oh, that's dark.
Weird. Yeah, I'm like, what kind of, okay, the pain of joy. I'm spinning here at this point. I'm like, first of all, yay, wow, we're in an obligator. I mean, in an inquisitor.
So cool.
But then I'm like, whoa, what is their existence? He's like, oh, it brings me pain and joy. Carr, you're crazy, man. You're a weird one, Mr. Carr.
Those eye metal spikes hurt.
Yeah, so they actually they look, because one of the things when we first heard about them is they looked painful. They are, but apparently it's worth it. And also, what does it really do to your psychology? Because was he like this before? The pain of joy. Like I'm like.
Well, we saw the 11th metal shadow.
Yeah, he was just a what do you call it? Nobleman. He was just but
and
could have been a psychopath anyway.
Probably. And Interestingly, this is not the line that freaked me out. We'll get to it. The Inquisitors had been waiting for 2 centuries, carefully politicking, subtly encouraging corruption and dissension among the other obligators. That's an important line, because the final empire, the Lord Ruler, that corruption right there. These are not good people.
Oh no. And there are actually not that many of them as we think about it. Like it's right so close. They are so close to him. They actually even sleep near him. And that's how literally how close the corruption is. They have their own machinations.
And there's a degree of manipulativeness here against not just the noblemen and the ministry, but the Lord Ruler himself.
Yes. They've been working on him, trying to get him to give him a good enough reason for them. Like, just because he knows that that's what they're trying to do, it doesn't mean that they're not working on him. Like that, he's like, he knows that they've been trying to get him to change his mind on this, and he finally does. But they have been manipulating him. And also, I don't know, if we think about the age, centuries it's been happening. I don't know if the same Inquisitors are the ones that have been doing it, but it's like through time, this has been a goal of the Inquisitors the whole time. That's what I'm saying. Like I'm feeling like it's not that there's only been one. I don't know. Is he centuries old?
I think so. I mean, we know they have tremendous healing ability, and that they are,
which would extend,
yeah, and that they are in certain ways superior to normal men. So
dominant.
The Inquisitors would no longer bow before the dictates of inferior men. But also, we know that the Lord Ruler has them on more important tasks, presumably finding half-breeds, etc.
Yeah, and enforcing things.
Yeah. So there's probably a reason why finding half-breeds is more important than governing the government.
Yes. Oh.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And that they don't see. So it may be that they don't even know why their work is so important.
Yeah, they don't. I don't think they would. I think they do that. That's why if they knew, maybe they would be a bit more focused on that work. But they even only did that work, basically found out Tavidian and all of that, just so that they could get their hands on the ministry, I suppose.
Yeah.
But one other thing, they share his like thing of dominance, that he has to be over inferior men, like inferiority, like they are the dominant one. That is why they want to be in control, is because how can we at all work with lesser men? So that's their motivation.
And the crazy thing is, it almost makes them more human, this ambition, this competitiveness, this pettiness. They are not that different from how they used to be.
Yeah, true.
The Inquisitors would no longer bow before the dictates of inferior men. He turned and smiled toward the group of ministry priests, knowing full well the discomfort the gaze of an Inquisitor could cause. He couldn't see anymore, not as he once had, but he had been given something better, a command of allomancy so subtle, so detailed, that he could make out the world around him with startling accuracy. That's cool.
That's the coolness I was talking about. I'm like, that's really cool. But you can't see what tell us what it does look like. And then I'll also get more of an understanding of the way my book cover is designed. It's got blue stuff.
Nice. But it also makes sense. They don't have eyes anymore.
Yeah. Yes. Thought that was a given, yeah.
But the thing that I find a little bit tragic in it is they never got to see Kelsier smile back at them.
I suppose they couldn't they? They got their expressions. He does see.
I thought they got body posture and like fidgetiness and that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Mm.
I thought they'd more or less just see blue lines.
Yeah, they wouldn't see the smile. But they do smile then. Well, we know Car smiles. But that doesn't mean you don't need to be able to see a smile to smile. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying.
I suppose.
We got Kelsius seeing them smile, but he didn't see Kelsius smile. God damn. Thanks. I didn't want to know that.
Sorry. Almost everything had metal in it. Water, stone, glass, even human bodies. These metals were too diffuse to be affected by allomancy. Indeed, most allomancers couldn't sense them. With his Inquisitor's eyes, however, Carr could see the iron lines of these things. The blue threads were fine, nearly invisible, but they outlined the world for him. The obligators before him were a shuffling mass of blues, their emotions, discomfort, anger, and fear, showing in their postures.
I get it.
Yeah. Discomfort, anger, and fear. So sweet, all three. Carr's smile widened despite his fatigue. Okay. Despite his fatigue, he had been awake for too long, living as an Inquisitor, drained the body, and he had to rest often. That freaks me out. That scares me.
Okay. Elaborate.
I don't know that I can. The concept, this idea that you do something to yourself, and as a result, you become fatigued quicker than normal. This idea that this draining, I don't know how to express why or articulate why this concept is so horrifying and scary to me.
I want you to, though.
Well, psychoanalyze me, Kitteh. You were a psychology major, right? Why does this scare me?
It's not life, maybe. That it's we know that they live for a long time, but they've kind of sacrificed normal life for it. And they're kind of, the body that they're in is, it's not actually living. It kind of needs to be recharged.
Yes, recharged. It's like a battery in a way.
Yeah, and that just feels, for me, it makes me think of them as like these weird, just reanimated people, but they're not. They never died, or they kind of died, but they're these weird super zombie things, and it's cool to know that they have limits. They just get very tired. So it's like, okay, that makes sense, that it works, that they're not just running around being OP all the time.
Yeah, it's a good limitation, a good limiter.
Yeah.
His brethren were already shuffling from the room, heading toward their rest chambers, which lay intentionally close to the throne room. They would sleep immediately. With the executions earlier in the day and the excitement of the night, they would be extremely fatigued. That was an important line because it adds to the growing list of points against the Lord Ruler.
Yes, that make this a
perfect coalescing of circumstances to defeat him.
Yes.
The Atium's gone. His Inquisitors are low on battery. The religion thing, it's wonderful.
Yeah, the riot, well, not riots, the uprising that is, sure, it's happened before, but it hasn't happened in a very long time. So you know what? I think just going back to the creepiness of the Inquisitors, I remember one of the things that you had said before was vampiric. Just that reminded me, the fact that they're all tired and they will sleep immediately. When I think of that sleep, it's not like they're just going to go and curl up and sleep on their sides. It seems like they're just going to go and lie down flat on their backs and close their eyes and then immediately be sleeping, like some sort of
cyborg
old school
robot.
Yeah, like some sort of old school, what's the name, vampire, but technological.
Carr stayed behind as both Inquisitors and Obligators left. Soon, only he and the Lord Ruler remained standing in a room lit by 5 massive braziers. The external bonfires slowly went out, extinguished by servants, leaving the glass panorama dark and blackout. You finally have what you want? Perhaps now I can have peace in this matter. Yes, Lord Ruler. I think that... A strange sound snapped in the air, a soft click. Carr looked up, frowning, as a small disc of metal bounced across the floor, eventually rolling to a stop against his foot. He picked up the coin, then looked up at the massive window, noting the small hole broken through it. What? Dozens more coins zipped through the window, scattering it with holes. Metallic clinks and tinkling glass rang in the air. Carr stepped back in surprise. I thought this was so coolly described. I could see it.
So cinematic.
The entire southern section of the window shattered, blasting inward, the glass weakened by coins to the point that a soaring body could break through. Shards of colorful glass spun in the air, sprang before a small figure clad in a fluttering mist cloak and carrying a pair of glittering black daggers. The girl landed in a crouch, skidding a short distance on the bits of glass, mist billowing through the opening behind her. It curled forward, drawn by her allomancy, swirling around her. She crouched for a moment in the mists as if she were some herald of the night. Then she sprang forward, dashing straight at the Lord Ruler.
I love that herald line, man. I loved it. In my book it says she wore as if she were some herald of the night itself.
Ooh,
I like that one. She's a herald of the night. It's a cool band name.
Yes. Want to start a band?
Yeah, let's go. Herald of the Night is the name.
Excellent.
Yes. Okay. So she sprang forward, dashing directly toward the Lord Ruler. Oh, also, were you thinking this was too easy? I wasn't thinking it's too easy. It's they were sufficiently distracted, and Carr is like, yes, he is. We've already established he's tired, and he's focusing on his conversation with the Lord Ruler. So this made sense. It was a cool entrance. I think it's earned. It's not too far fetched for me.
Yeah, I have no problem with believability here. It's badass. It's unexpected. Like who's gonna expect that?
Really? Yeah, exactly. Who is gonna expect that? Especially that, like, even after everything they've been through and having the uprising and whatever going on, they like, this is the freaking Lord Ruler's chamber. Okay, we put bonfires outside to signal that we're busy in here. I don't think that they expect anyone to ever try to go in there.
Yeah. Vin burned the 11th metal. The Lord Ruler's past self appeared as it had before, forming as if out of mist to stand on the dais beside the throne. Vin ignored the Inquisitor. The creature fortunately reacted slowly. Yeah, as we just said, they specifically went out of their way. Sanderson specifically went out of his way to say, it's been a long day, he's fatigued, so that's fine. She was halfway up the dais steps before it thought to chase her. The Lord Ruler sat silently, watching her with a barely interested expression.
2 spears through the chest didn't even bother him,
Vin thought as she leapt the last bit of distance up to the top of the dais.
He has nothing to fear from my daggers.
Which was why she didn't intend to attack with them. Instead, she raised her weapons and plunged directly toward the past self's heart. Her daggers hit and passed right through the man as if he weren't there. Then stumbled forward, skidding right through the image, nearly slipping off the dais. She spun, slicing at the image again. Once more, her daggers passed through it harmlessly. It didn't even waver or distort. Okay, so two important things from me on this matter. One, I laughed really hard at this moment. I thought it was just this idea that the Lord Ruler and the Inquisitor cannot see the shadow here. So this little girl just leaping with her daggers at the air and then like doing this awkward, like, turn,
Whoa.
shuffle back and to try it again, instead of going for the Lord Ruler, I bet looks so ridiculous
Yeah.
and so funny.
And she landed all epic, and we're like, woohoo! And we're like, yeah, she's going for it. And it's like, yeah, she's going straight for him. And which was why she didn't intend to attack him with him. Like, we're like, cool. So we kind of, you get her plan there. But yeah, the way it just happens, it just also the way it's written, her daggers hit, and you're like, oh yes, no, and pass right through the man. Like, that was very well done. I remember reading just the first book going, yeah, what? It works? Oh, no. So you get the kind of same sort of feeling. You also stumble through the sentence like Vince stumbled
Exactly.
through this thing. Yeah.
And then my second thought was, that was your plan?
Yeah.
You didn't know anything. I thought you figured something out from the last chapter. That
That
is
was
what
it.
you...
Yeah.
And you say a word, talk to the shadow for a second.
See if you can touch it. I don't know. I don't know. This is your plan. Yeah. You go in, you'd make your crazy epic entrance, and that was your plan. Like, look, are we criticizing? I'm not criticizing her. Not criticizing
No.
Sanderson as I'm criticizing her as a character making this decision. It's very, very rash. But you know what? Kelsey has rubbed off on her apparently, because she's just like, let's go. I've got a plan.
She was so darn confident. What's the backup plan here, Vin?
She's like, oh well, oops, gotta get out.
Yup. And she still hasn't figured out she still hasn't considered the feruchemy of it yet.
Exactly. Like, there's a lot that she could, like, also, okay, yeah, that could have been her plan. She could have considered the feruchemy. She could have come to that revelation. I think she could have.
Mm-hmm.
And she could have thought about the way that the Lord Ruler looks and everything. But no, she needed to be put in this situation so she thinks faster, I suppose.
It's more dramatic this way, I suppose.
Of course. Yeah. It's just, yeah, you know what? Oh, of course, Finn. No wonder that. Look, she had to believe, okay? She had hope.
Yeah. I really want to know. Don't answer this in the comments. I really want to know if you can talk to them.
Yeah.
And
but also,
like,
yeah.
I was expecting something like her being able to grant the shadow the power to take control of the body for a moment.
Something like
and be
that,
like,
yeah.
remember who you used to be. Make the right choice. Make it now. It's not too late. I was still expecting the redemption arc for the Lord Ruler right now.
And that was the vehicle you were thinking, yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I cut you off. What were you saying?
No, that is the thinking there. That I knew if the 11th medal was going to be involved, because we got hints about that, obviously, that she's like, Kelsey said that's the key. That's what I was thinking was probably if we're going to have that be the key, that is the most likely thing that I could think, is that it turns into that, like a conversation, and I don't know, something that something also including magic in terms of the shadow taking over the body, that sort of thing. That's what I was thinking as well. It did, I won't lie, it did occur to me to attack the shadow. It did occur to me, but I was like, that would not have been like my go-to plan, because I don't know enough. It's not the plan. Like, it's a possibility. That's it. Like, I wasn't confident enough about it. I wouldn't have jumped through the window, crashed through the window, done my epic superhero landing, and done that. Like, I don't. Yeah.
Anyway, she thinks in frustration,
my gold image. I was able to touch that. Why can't I touch this?
It obviously didn't work the same way. The shadow stood still, completely oblivious to her attacks. She thought that maybe if she killed the past version of the Lord Ruler, his current form would die as well. Unfortunately, the past self appeared to be just as insubstantial as the Atium shadow. She had failed.
I love the way that it's subtle stuff. It's normal for everybody, but I just want to appreciate that she had failed, just all on its own line. Editing. Great stuff.
Yes, so good. Carr crashed into her, his powerful Inquisitor's grip grabbing her at the shoulders, his momentum carrying her off the dais. They tumbled down the back steps. Then grunted, flaring pewter.
I'm not the same powerless girl you held prisoner just a short time ago, Carr.
She thought with determination, kicking him upward as they hit the ground behind the throne. The Inquisitor grunted, her kick tossing him into the air and ripping his grip free of her shoulders. Her mist cloak came off in his hands, but she flipped to her feet and scrambled away. Inquisitors! Come to me! Vin cried out, the powerful voice striking pain in her tin-enhanced ears.
I have to get out of here. I'll need to come up with a different way to kill him.
Carr tackled her again from behind. This time, he got his arms wrapped completely around her, and he squeezed. Vin cried out in pain, flaring her pewter, pushing back, but Carr forced her to her feet. He dexterously wrapped one arm around her throat while pinning her own arms behind her back with his other. She fought angrily, squirming and struggling, but his grip was tight. She tried throwing them both back with a sudden steel push against a door latch, but the anchor was too weak, and Carr barely stumbled. His grip held. The Lord Ruler chuckled as he sat back down on his throne. You'll have little success against Carr, child. He was a soldier many years ago. He knows how to hold a person so that they can't break his grip no matter how strong they may be. Vin continued to struggle, gasping for breath. The Lord Ruler's words proved true, however. She tried ramming her head back against Carr's, but he was ready for this. She could hear him in her ear, his quick breathing almost passionate as he choked her. In the reflection on the window, she could see the door behind them open. Another Inquisitor strode into the room, his spikes gleaming in the distorted reflection, his dark robe shuffling. Oh no, there's more. Vin's done for.
That's what I was like, done. I was in complete panic mode. I had no hopes. I was like, okay, just continue reading and hope for the best. That's all that I was. I had no predictions. I had nothing in mind. What did you have any inklings?
You can still talk to the shadow in a grip.
Yes. Like, look at this, look who you were. But she hadn't picked up, she hadn't understood what this past self was anyway. Yeah. Well, actually, she hadn't even thought, she hadn't thought much about what the past self would be like. Even if you go, okay, the past self is the guy in the logbook. Okay, what do we do with that, Vin? That's what we were thinking, right? Because we were like, okay, right. There's definitely been a huge change. Also, just one little thing of just, you want to talk about creepy? He's got like passionate breathing in her ear as he's choking.
Oh yeah, this guy's a monster.
No, not liking his vibe.
A very real monster.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
That's it.
She thought in a surreal moment, watching the mists on the ground before her, creeping through the shattered window wall, flowing across the floor. Oddly, they didn't curl around her as they usually did, as if something were pushing them away. To Vin, it seemed a final testament to her defeat.
There's
that line almost jinx. That's just glaring importance, yeah?
Yes, yeah, it's like, take notes that he could have written there, just like put it in bold for us if we really wanted. Like, okay, cool. We have to pick up, what does that mean? Is it because I don't know if she's still burning the 11th metal. I don't know what it means. But we've taken notice. Thank you.
Yes. Just note.
Vin's just thinking, oh, well, that's weird. I suppose my life is over now, so weird stuff is going to happen.
Speaking of which, now we get the saddest line in the entire book.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Kelsia. I failed you.
Oh, my heart.
I think actually when I first read this, when I read that, I closed the book for a moment. So I was like, oh, damn, I got hit. Because I know that during this chapter, when I first read this chapter, I closed the book a couple times.
When I read this chapter, I was literally pacing in my room, just back and forth, glued.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't close and walk away. I just closed and looked away, and I was like, "Oh no!" And then it came back.
Oh man. The second Inquisitor stepped up beside his companion. Then he reached out and grabbed something at Carr's back. There was a ripping sound. Vin dropped immediately to the ground, gasping for breath. She rolled, pewter allowing her to recover quickly. Carr stood above her, teetering. Then he toppled limply to the side, sprawling to the ground. The second Inquisitor stood beside him, holding what appeared to be a large metal spike, like the ones in the Inquisitor's eyes. And then I was like, what just happened? Why did it happen? Oh shit, they have an off switch.
Yes, it's like all of it comes together. You're like, okay, yes, cool, that's the key, but wait, why? Why is this happening now? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Vin glanced toward Carr's immobile body. The back of his robe had been ripped, exposing a bloody hole right between the shoulder blades, a hole big enough for a metal spike. Carr's scarred face was pale, lifeless.
Another spike. The other Inquisitor pulled it out of Carr's back and he died. That's the secret.
That's the secret?
That's the off switch. Well, it's not really a switch. It's just yeet.
Mm-hmm. What? The Lord Ruler bellowed, standing, the sudden motion tossing his throne backwards. The stone chair toppled down the steps, chipping and cracking the marble. Betrayal from one of my own! Holy shit, an Inquisitor has betrayed the others.
Yeah, and you're just like, and I was like, cool, why? What luck? There's an Inquisitor that I hadn't put two and two together. I hadn't thought about it because I was just in the moment. Betrayal from one of my own. That is, yeah, one of his own. I suppose he makes them. That's why they're his own, and they're the closest thing he has to family, I suppose.
That's certainly a way to put it. They are certainly like his most ardent followers.
Followers, yeah.
Or supposed to be.
Yeah, it's like, okay, listen, the apparently, well, the doctrine or whatever is that the Lord Ruler gave the nobleman allomancy as a gift. And that's why they follow him. Well, the Inquisitors seem to be Inquisitors because of him. So, yeah. One of his own. He literally made them. So, and I'm just not, it's not computing how that could happen. Because I was just like, wow, what luck. I think at that point I was like, cool, that's great. There's somebody in there that's seen the opportunity because of Vin and taken action because of Vin. That's what I was trying to figure. Yeah.
If they were willing to spend centuries essentially trying to take control of the ministry. And like I said earlier, they were trying to pull one over on the Lord Ruler. Why wouldn't at least one of them, one of theirs ambitions strive for just a little bit higher?
Yeah. It wouldn't have been like, oh, to save the Scar or something. It would have just been so that they can take the power. But
yes.
Why not? Yeah.
The new Inquisitor dashed toward the Lord Ruler. As he ran, his robe cowl fell back, giving Vin a view of his bald head. There was something familiar about the newcomer's face, despite the spike heads coming out the front, and the gruesome spike tips jutting from the back of his skull. Despite the bald head and the unfamiliar clothing, the man looked a little like Kelsier.
No, not Kelsier. Marsh.
Holy shit!
And that's a time where I closed the book. Where I went, oh, you for real? I looked away and I was like, okay, that's it. Cool. I loved it. I went, whew. That was cool.
It wasn't cope when we read that chapter.
It was not cope. We talked ourselves out of it because we were like, no, we have to deal with it, okay? It's not good. Right. You have to deal with reality when you have to deal with loss, okay? You can't cope like that. I'm not mad at us for what we thought.
No, me either. I'm mad about the other thing for talking myself out of the other thing, but this one, we didn't see the face. Oh, what a great, so cool. Love it. Marsh is back.
And but then you're like, wait, okay, yes, okay, how much of him is there? Well, quite a lot, seeing as he's literally attacked an Inquisitor and helped Vin right now. So you're like, cool, but then I thought of like being in Carr's POV, and I'm like, oh my god,
he's
what's happened to Marsh? Yeah, jeez. Like he went so far. He went all the way in,
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. He's the best spy ever.
Oh, yeah.
Double homage. Sorry.
Yes. Marsh took the dais steps in twos, moving with an Inquisitor's supernatural speed. Vin struggled to her feet, shrugging off the effects of her near choking. Her surprise was more difficult to dismiss. Marsh was alive. Marsh was an Inquisitor.
The Inquisitors weren't investigating him because they suspected him. They intended to recruit him.
And now he looked like he intended to fight the Lord Ruler.
I've got to help. Perhaps he knows the secret to killing the Lord Ruler. He figured out how to kill the Inquisitors, after all.
Marsh reached the top of the dais. Inquisitors, come to... The Lord Ruler froze, noticing something sitting right outside the door. A small group of steel spikes, just like the one Marsh had pulled from Carr's back, lay piled on the floor. There looked to be about 7 of them.
I was like, woo!
Marsh!
Yes! I love that moment because I'm like, yeah, screw you, guy. Oh, Inquisitors, come to me. Like, what? Okay. Also, like,
Those
what?
are very hard to replace.
Yes, it's very. That's exactly what I thought. Actually, I did think of that. I'm like, look, all 7 that you have to go and replace there. So it was, yeah, I enjoyed that moment. And then also I'm like, oh yeah, he's so used to he just calls on them. Like he's not going to deal with things by himself. Ugh, why would he do that?
Right? Think how much better things would be for him soon if he just... But no, it's fine. It's fine.
I'm happy with the way it came out. It ended. But anyway, let's go.
Me too. Marsh smiled. The expression looked eerily like one of Kelsier's smirks. Vin reached the bottom of the dais and pushed herself off a coin, throwing herself up toward the top of the platform. The awesome full power of the Lord Ruler's fury hit her halfway up. The depression, the anger-fueled asphyxiation of her soul pushed through her copper, hitting her like a physical force. She flared copper, gasping, but wasn't completely able to push the Lord Ruler off her emotions. Marsh stumbled slightly, and the Lord Ruler swung a backhand much like the one that had killed Kelsier. Fortunately, Marsh recovered in time to duck. He spun around the Lord Ruler, reaching up to grab the back of the Emperor's black robe-like suit. Marsh yanked, ripping the cloth open along the back seam. Marsh froze, his spike-eyed expression unreadable. The Lord Ruler spun, slamming his elbow into Marsh's stomach, throwing the Inquisitor across the room. As the Lord Ruler turned, Vin could see what Marsh had seen. Nothing. A normal, if muscular back. Unlike the Inquisitors, the Lord Ruler didn't have a spike driven through his spine. Wow.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I didn't think that was gonna work anyway, but
No.
I guess they're all just trying. They're just trying
Options.
shit.
Well,
that was Marsh's plan. Marsh has been thinking about this a lot. He's like, yeah, there's gonna be a spike there. There's gonna be one.
there's gotta be.
I would love to hear his reasoning why he thought that.
Me too.
Oh, Marsh.
Vin thought with a sinking depression. It had been a clever idea, far more clever than Vin's foolish attempt with the 11th medal, but it had proven equally faulty. Well, at least you know it was foolish.
Yeah, okay, yeah. At least good admitting it. That's good.
Marsh finally hit the ground, his head cracking, then slid across the floor until he ran into the far wall. He lay slumped against the massive window, immobile. So I knew that's not going to kill him. I feel like that is structured to make us think it killed him, but he's an Inquisitor now, and we've seen them revive from worse. So
yeah,
I
exactly.
wasn't worried.
I was worried because it was the Lord Ruler who had done this, but so I was skeptical of it. I was like, no, I believe it. But I did go, oh my God, he better not be dead. I think that's where I was. I was like, that's not enough. That's where I was at, where it was like, if that killed him, I would be like, that's not right. So that's where I was at that point. But I'm like waiting for the book to just confirm it for me. So I wasn't hopeful. I don't think I had hope. I was just like, that better not. I was actually more, that better. That's the phrasing. Not, oh my God, I hope he's alive. It's more like, that better not be it. Marsh!
She cried, jumping and pushing herself toward him. However, as she flew, the Lord Ruler raised his hand absently. Vin felt a powerful something crash into her. It felt like a steel push slamming against the metals inside her stomach. But it couldn't have been that. Kelsier had promised that no allomancer could affect metals that were inside someone's body. I mean, clearly we know nothing.
We know nothing. Yes.
Hidden metals, rule breakers.
Yeah. Like, how much metal does she have in her body that it's like it holds her whole body? I don't know if it's just the metals. Interesting.
But he had also said that no allomancer could affect the emotions of a person who was burning copper. Discarded coins shot away from the Lord Ruler, streaking across the floor. The doors wrenched free from their mountings, shattering and breaking away from the room. Incredibly, even bits of colored glass quivered and slid away from the dais.
That was a nice setup and payoff from, we saw, even, from the Inquisitor's eyes, we know that there's metal in everything, and now the shards of metal are moving, so he can influence even those small bits of metal in the glass. So that was a nice little nod back to that POV.
And Vin was tossed to the side, the metals in her stomach threatening to rip free from her body. She slammed to the ground, the blow knocking her nearly unconscious. She lay in a daze, addled, confused, able to think of only one thing.
Such power.
Clicks sounded as the Lord Ruler walked down his dais. He moved quietly, ripping off his torn suit coat and shirt, leaving him bare from the waist up, save for the jewelry sparkling on his fingers and wrists. Several thin bracelets, she noticed, pierced the skin of his upper arms. Obviously, Feruchemy, we already know this.
Yeah. And we're like, come on, Vin, catch up. Yeah. Clever.
She thought, struggling to her feet.
Keeps them from being pushed or pulled.
The Lord Ruler shook his head regretfully, his steps kicking up trails in the cool mist that poured across the floor from the broken window. He looked so strong, his torso erupting with muscles, his face handsome. She could feel the power of his allomancy snapping at her emotions, barely held back by her copper. What did you think, child? To defeat me? Am I some common inquisitor, my powers endowed fabrications? Vin flared pewter. She then turned and dashed away, intending to grab Marsh's body and break through the glass at the other side of the room. But then he was there, moving with a speed as if to make the fury of a tornado's wind seem sluggish. Oh, what prose.
Yeah, I was like, okay, woo. Prose spitting.
Even within a full pewter flare, Vin couldn't outrun him. He almost seemed casual as he reached out, grabbing her shoulder and yanking her backward. He flung her like a doll, tossing her toward one of the room's massive support pillars. Vin quested desperately for an anchor, but he had blown all the metal out of the room. Except, she pulled on one of the Lord Ruler's own bracelets, ones that didn't pierce the skin. Not a bad plan.
She had no other options.
Yes, and clearly, because she hasn't recognized Feruchemy yet, it's like, okay, this will be it. This will be it.
Yeah, you've seen that there are ones that pierce the flesh and ones that don't. And she did think, okay, it's just that you can't pull on them. It's like, yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, she is in a fight for her life. I guess we got to give her some slack.
Yes. I'm being hard on her because it's funny and only a little true. He immediately whipped his arm upward, throwing off her pull, making her spin maladroitly in the air. On this episode, Maladroit Watch, we get our, what is this, our fifth maladroit?
I think this is our fifth. I was so happy that we got one in this episode, this chapter. Oh my gosh. I was like, thank you, that really helps it. Yeah.
He slammed her with another of his powerful pushes, blasting her backward. Metals in her stomach wrenched, glass quivered, and her mother's earring ripped free of her ear. Oh my gosh, I don't remember if she collects her mother's earring at the end of this or not.
We don't really get, we get the last bit, it cuts, the scene cuts off. So I don't know if she does. I don't know if it's gone now. It's flown into the air, off. It feels like this, out into the night. But also, I was like, okay, cool. So we want to see, this is another point that we want her to pick up. her earring got pulled out because he's so strong. Like, it was affected by his allomancy. That's what we're trying to pick up here. Like, look, we had other theories about the mom's earring, but really, for what it seems like now is that its purpose was to show her, look, you can manipulate the things that are going through somebody's skin, flesh.
Yes. She tried to spin and hit feet first, but she crashed into a stone pillar at a terrible speed, and pewter failed her. She heard a sickening snap, and a spear of pain shot up her right leg. She collapsed to the ground. She didn't have the will to look, but the agony from her torso told her that her leg jutted from beneath her body, broken at an awkward angle.
Yeah, sorry, I just got the visual. Thanks, Brandison. God.
This book is visceral. There is a lot of surprisingly frank descriptions of very horrible things.
Yes, true. Yeah, the frankness just makes it hit you. It hits you straight in the face. You're like, whoa. I just, by the way, broken at an awkward ankle. Oh, he doesn't have to use crazy prose as well. Like, although I did really enjoy the a spear of pain, but in terms of broken at an awkward angle, that's very frank. It's very plain language, and that's good enough for us to go.
Yeah. The Lord Ruler shook his head. No, Vin realized, he didn't worry about wearing jewelry. Considering his abilities and strength, a man would have to be foolish, as Vin had been, to try to use the Lord Ruler's jewelry as an anchor. It had only let him control her jumps. He stepped forward, feet clicking against broken glass. You think this is the first time someone has tried to kill me, child? I've survived burnings and beheadings. I've been stabbed and sliced, crushed and dismembered. I was even flayed once, near the beginning. He turned toward Marsh, shaking his head again. Strangely, Vin's earlier impression of the Lord Ruler returned. He looked tired, exhausted. Not his body. It was still muscular. It was just his air. She tried to climb to her feet using the stone pillar for stability. I am God.
So different from the humble man in the logbook.
God cannot be killed. God cannot be overthrown. Your rebellion. You think I haven't seen its like before? You think I haven't destroyed entire armies on my own? What will it take before you people stop questioning? How many centuries must I prove myself before you idiot Scar sees it through? How many of you must I kill? Vin cried out as she twisted her leg the wrong way. She flared pewter, but tears came to her eyes anyway. She was running out of metals. Her pewter would be gone soon, and there was no way she would be able to remain conscious without it. She slumped against the pillar, the Lord Ruler's allomancy pressing against her. The pain in her leg throbbed.
He's just too strong. He's right. He is God. What were we thinking?
How dare you? The Lord Ruler asked, picking up Marsh's limp body with a bejeweled hand. Marsh groaned slightly, trying to lift his head. How dare you? After what I gave you! I made you superior to ordinary men! I made you dominant! Vin's head snapped up. Through the haze of pain and hopelessness, something triggered a memory within her.
He keeps saying that his people should be dominant.
She reached within, feeling her last little bit of 11th metal reserve. She burned it, looking through tear-stained eyes as the Lord Ruler held Marsh in a one-handed grip. The Lord Ruler's past self appeared next to him, a man in a fur cloak and heavy boots, a man with a full beard and strong muscles. Not an aristocrat or a tyrant, not a hero or even a warrior, a man dressed for life in the cold mountains, a herdsman, or perhaps a packman.
Rashek.
I talked myself out of it.
Well, I helped.
Are we gonna have this conversation now or later? I think
We're in it.
we should. We're in it. Let's have it. Okay.
No. I'm saying we're in the book. Like we're really in the moment. I don't know if we want to talk about it now.
Okay. We'll save this for the end.
Okay.
Okay. The Lord Ruler spun toward her in startlement.
Rashek. That's your name, isn't it? You aren't the man who wrote the logbook. You're not the hero that was sent to protect the people. You're his servant, the pack-man who hated him.
She shook her head.
You killed him. That's what happened that night. That's why the logbook stopped so suddenly. You killed the hero and took his place. You went into the cavern in his stead, and you claimed the power for yourself. But instead of saving the world, you took control of it.
You know nothing! He bellowed, still holding Marsh's limp body in one hand. You know nothing of that!
You hated him. You thought that a terraceman should have been the hero. You couldn't stand the fact that he, a man from the country that had oppressed yours, was fulfilling your own legends.
The Lord Ruler lifted a hand, and Vin suddenly felt an impossible weight press against her. Allomancy, pushing the metals in her stomach and in her body, threatening to crush her back against the pillar. She cried out, flaring her last bit of pewter, struggling to remain conscious. Mists curled around her, creeping through the broken window and across the floor. Outside, through the broken window, she could hear something ringing faintly in the air. It sounded like cheering. Yells of joy, thousands in chorus. It sounded almost as if they were cheering her on. Okay, did you imagine the armies watching this happen?
Initially, I did, but then I was like, they can't see. They
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. It seems it's difficult for me to imagine a situation in which those
Yeah.
on the ground would be able to see all the way up
Yeah.
there. They might be able to feel vague allomantic things, maybe,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the details I
And
think will be lost on, or
yeah.
should be lost on most people, unless
Yeah,
I have
exactly.
greatly misunderstood the geographical layout of the room.
No, it's very high up. They wouldn't be able to see much. Maybe somebody would have said, "Hey, look, there's glass and things shattering and whatever." But that's as much as they would know. They would know that something is going on there. And the cheering, the cheering is they've obviously taken the palace or something. So that's what they're cheering. And she is. It does feel like they're cheering her on. So yeah, I also questioned it at that point, and I was like, no, they're not watching. Don't worry. But it's a good thing that she's got to remember that there's people out there.
Well said.
What does it matter? I know the Lord Ruler's secret, but what does that tell me? That he was a packman? A servant? A terraceman? A ferrochemist?
Finally, Vin!
I was like, duh, duh. Yes, let's go. Well done. We made it. Good. There we go. It's so, like you're almost dead, but thank you. Glad you got this thought in. Now what do we do?
Yeah. She looked through dazed eyes and again saw the pair of bracelets glittering on the Lord Ruler's upper arms. Bracelets made of metal. Bracelets that pierced his skin in places. So that they couldn't be affected by allomancy. Why do that? He supposedly wore metal as a sign of bravado. He wasn't worried about people pulling or pushing against his metals. Or that was what he claimed. But what if all the other metals he wore, the rings, the bracelets, the fashion, that had made its way to the nobility, were simply a distraction? A distraction to keep people from focusing on this one pair of bands twisting around the upper arms.
Could it really be that easy?
She thought as the Lord Ruler's weight threatened to crush her. Her pewter was nearly gone. She could barely think, yet she burned iron. The Lord Ruler could pierce copper clouds. She could too. Best line. Finally,
Yes.
she's starting to think the rules aren't the rules.
Yes, we don't know anything actually, so we can do what we want. We can try what we want, which I suppose she tried, but really badly in the beginning. But,
Yes, and I know we had that Kelsier line of "You're special, Vin. Others have tried, but have others tried? Have they?"
well, maybe they've tried, but they haven't been able because she is special.
Has Vin tried? Has she?
Mm-hmm. The shackles are off, basically.
Yeah. They were the same somehow. If he could affect metals inside a person's body, then she could as well. She flared the iron. Blue lines appeared, pointing to the Lord Ruler's rings and bracelets, all of them but the one on his upper arms, piercing his skin. Vin stoked her iron, concentrating, pushing it as hard as she could. She kept her pewter flared, struggling to keep from being crushed, but she could feel that she was no longer breathing. In this moment, I vividly recalled Kelsier's lines about how people who flare too much too often, weird things start to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know quite what to make of it, and I had an instinct that this was ultimately going to work out for her, but I wonder if what others feel when they flare too hard is just like not having the endurance that Vin does in some way.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that didn't occur to me. So she's able to flare more than other people without the side effects, basically.
Possibly. Something to think about. I'm going to talk about it in the next episode, the epilogue chapter, but I wrote down like things we need to experience or learn more about. And then I have a list of questions that I want to know. So we're going to discuss that at the end of the epilogue chapisode. Look forward to it, folks. Stick around. The force pushing against her was too strong. She couldn't get her chest to go up and down. Mist spun around her, dancing because of her allomancy. She was dying. She knew it. She could barely feel the pain anymore. She was being crushed, suffocated. She drew upon the mists. That line.
Yeah, what the hell does that mean? But I was like, okay, maybe she feels like she's doing that.
And it's more of this mist talk in this chapter. It wasn't swirling around her like she was supposed to, but now she's calling upon it.
Yeah. What is the mists? That's one of the questions.
What is the mists? What are the mists?
What are mists?
2 new lines appeared. She screamed, pulling with a strength she had never known before. She flared her iron higher and higher, the Lord Ruler's own push giving her the leverage she needed to pull against his bracelets. Anger, desperation, and agony mixed within her, and the pull became her only focus. Her pewter ran out.
He killed Kelsier.
The bracelets ripped free. Okay, that is such important order of operations. Her pewter ran out, then the bracelets ripped free.
The pull became her only focus, so she should essentially, as her pewter runs out, she should just lose consciousness. But she holds on to what she is doing, and then her key focus is like, wait, this man killed Kelsier, so she holds on beyond what her pewter could give her in consciousness.
Yes. Excellent point. The bracelets ripped free. The Lord Ruler cried out in pain, a faint, distant sound to Vin's ears. The weight suddenly released her, and she dropped to the floor, gasping, her vision swimming. The bloody bracelets hit the ground, released from her grip, skidding across the marble to land before her. She looked up, using tin to clear her vision. The Lord Ruler stood where he had been before, his eyes widening with terror. His arms bloodied, he dropped Marsh to the ground, rushing toward her and the mangled bracelets. However, with her last bit of strength, pewter gone, Vin pushed on the bracelets, shooting them past the Lord Ruler. He spun in horror, watching the bracelets fly out the broken wall window. Okay, those are religious artifacts. Someone's gonna find them. I hope those do not become MacGuffins.
I don't know. I don't think so. I feel like that would be pretty easy to find. But then yeah, what do they mean? They might just be. They might just be.
Vin pushed on the bracelets, shooting them past the Lord Ruler. He spun in horror, watching the bracelets fly out the broken wall window. In the distance, the sun broke the horizon. Yeah, right as that happens, the sun rises. I see what you're doing there, Sanderson.
This is beautiful. I really enjoyed this part.
In the distance, the sun broke the horizon. The bracelets dropped in front of its red light, sparkling for a moment before plunging down into the city. No! The Lord Ruler screamed, stepping toward the window. His muscles grew limp, deflating as Sazed's had. He turned back toward Vin, angry, but his face was no longer that of a young man. He was middle-aged, his youthful features matured. He stepped toward the window. His hair grayed and wrinkles formed around his eyes like tiny webs. His next step was feeble. He began to shake with the burden of old age, his back stooping, his skin sagging, his hair going limp. Then he collapsed to the floor. Ooh.
It's happened. It's happening.
And it is undeniable now that it was the feruchemy that was keeping him immortal, right? Instead of whatever happened with the deepness, which makes me wonder what exactly happened to him with the deepness. What was the power that he took exactly?
Well, yeah. Look, I'm still thinking that the immortality still has got to do with the deepness, because why isn't Sazed and everyone else doing the immortality thing with feruchemy?
Who says they're not?
Yeah.
Or maybe they just think it's, an abomination to do it.
Yeah.
Vin leaned back, her mind fuzzing from the pain. She lay there for a time. She couldn't think. Mistress! A voice said, and then Sazed was at her side, his brow wet with sweat. He reached over and poured something down her throat, and she swallowed. Health potion? What
Yeah.
did she drink? Metal. Oh, yeah, it was metal, obviously. Her body knew what to do. She reflexively flared pewter, strengthening her body. She flared tin, and the sudden increase of sensitivity shocked her awake. She gasped, looking up at Sazed's concerned face. Careful, mistress, he said, inspecting her leg. The bone is fractured, though it appears only in one place.
Marsh. See to Marsh.
Marsh? Sazed asked. Then he saw the Inquisitor stirring slightly on the floor a distance away. By the forgotten gods, Sazed said, moving to Marsh's side. Marsh groaned, sitting up. He cradled his stomach with one arm. What is that? Vin glanced at the withered form on the ground a short distance away.
It's him, the Lord Ruler. He's dead.
Sazed frowned, curiously standing. He wore a brown robe and had brought a simple wooden spear with him. Vin shook her head at the thought of such a pitiful weapon facing the creature that had nearly killed her and Marsh.
Of course, in a way, we were all just as useless. We should be dead, not the Lord Ruler. I pulled his bracelets off. Why? Why can I do things like he can? Why am I different?
Mistress, he is not dead, I think. He's still alive.
What?
Vin asked, frowning. She could barely think at the moment. There would be time to sort out her questions later. Sazed was right. The aged figure wasn't dead. Actually, it was moving pitifully on the floor, crawling toward the broken window, toward where his bracelets had gone. Marsh stumbled to his feet, waving away Sazed's ministrations. I will heal quickly. See to the girl.
Help me up.
Mistress.
Please, Sazed.
He sighed, handing her the wooden spear. Here, lean on this. She took it, and he helped her to her feet. Vin leaned on the shaft, hobbling with Marsh and Sazed toward the Lord Ruler. The crawling figure reached the edge of the room, overlooking the city through the shattered window. Vin's footsteps crackled on broken glass. People cheered again below, though she couldn't see them, nor see what they were cheering about. Listen. Listen, he who would have been our god. Do you hear them cheering? Those cheers aren't for you. These people never cheered for you. They have found a new leader this evening, a new pride. My obligators, the Lord Ruler whispered. Your obligators will forget you, Marsh said. I will see to that. The other Inquisitors are dead, slain by my own hand. Yet the gathered prelines saw you transfer power to the Canton of Inquisition. I am the only Inquisitor left in Luthadel. I rule your church now. Oh, so cool.
Yeah, I was like, oh, well, that's neat. That works out quite cool. It's not going to be that easy, but cool.
No, it won't be that easy. Everyone's going to want power. Everyone.
Yeah.
No, the Lord Ruler whispered. Marsh, Vin, and Sazed stopped in a ragged group looking down at the old man. In the morning light below, Vin could see a massive collection of people standing before a large podium, holding up their weapons in a sign of respect. So that line makes me think they did see what happened.
They saw something. Yeah. Well, they also know, look, I mean, just thinking about it, like they know that the Lord Ruler didn't come down to fight with him. So clearly something this has been a victorious night. So that's what they're celebrating.
True. The Lord Ruler cast his eyes down at the crowd, and the final realization of his failure seemed to hit him. He looked back up at the ring of people who had defeated him. You don't understand. You don't know what I do for mankind. I was your god, even if you couldn't see it. By killing me, you have doomed yourselves. Now, that to me seems to be confirmation that the deepness will return.
Yep, it's not over, guys. I was like, yeah, I know, we called it.
He doesn't have. There's no point in him lying anymore.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, maybe we should ask him more about this. But I guess they just don't, like, why? They're like, why should we trust him at all with anything? So
that's a problem for future Vin.
Yeah. Poke.
Seriously, Vin felt what we think is the deepness in an earlier chapter, and now this, I think it's fair.
Oh yeah. That is the kind of victory loss that we expected. Like or expected, like if he was going to be defeated, we knew that it was the downside was going to be coming because obviously there's more books. But yeah, so we called it, but they confirmed it. Confirmation. Yes.
Vin glanced at Marsh and Sazed. Slowly, each of them nodded. The Lord Ruler had begun coughing, and he seemed to be aging even further. Vin leaned on Sazed, her teeth gritted against the pain of her broken leg.
I bring you a message from a friend of ours. He wanted you to know that he's not dead. He can't be killed. He is hope.
Then she raised the spear and rammed it directly into the Lord Ruler's heart.
See ya.
Whoa!
Yep, there it is. It's done. But what does that mean? We have doomed ourselves. They don't even know half of it. But how are we going to figure it out? Where are we going to figure this out from? What does Marsh know? All the questions.
Yes. And speaking of questions, let's finally have that talk.
Okay.
Rashek is the Lord Ruler. So this brings up so many questions. Here's some of what I wrote down. He hates the Keepers because he considers them traitors to Terrace culture, perhaps? But why does he seem to hate Terrace culture writ large now? Why would he do that to his own people? Where do the noblemen play into this? Are they descendants of Terracemen? And are the Ska descendants of everyone else? Are the current Terracemen descendants of Terracemen that supported Epigraph Man? What is the racial makeup of the noblemen? Why would Rashek adopt the Clenny cathedrals, etc., if he hates them so much? In the epigraphs, it seemed like Rashek had an issue with the Terracemen adopting the Clenny cultural things. Why would he keep Epigraph Man's journal as a trophy?
Exactly. That was part of what I'm thinking about is that mixing thing still on the table? I don't know. We don't know. It's possible because why would he keep that? I don't understand. Is he just that deranged that he was not going to be this hero of ages and that upset him, or so he kept this? Or is there some thing? Are they both one?
I don't know.
He says we know nothing of it. Okay, we know nothing of it. He told us.
Yeah. Now, I do suspect that we will get answers to some of these questions, but my suspicions right now are that the Terracemen stewards And the Terracemen the keepers are descendants of genuine Terracemen who opposed Rashek and supported Epigraph Man. That is my working theory moving forward. And I am inclined to think that the noblemen are descendants of Terracemen that supported him, or just other nations that, fell quickly and ultimately supported. And I suspect that the Ska is basically everyone who he felt oppressed his people. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Oh, so the Ska would be the Clenny, basically, right?
Yeah.
The Clenny, yes. Because those are the people that were oppressing his people. One of the other things, I suppose, is also I see how he could see the Terracemen, the ones that supported the other guy. What's it? Journal man, logbook man. I can see that those he would shun them and not want them to have power. But also, if he's just using ferrochemy to be immortal, then that means that the greatest threat to him are other biological Terracemen. So, because they could
and obviously he wants to root out every bit of knowledge from the earth regarding ferrochemy, because that will only lend to his godlikeness.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't want people to know how it works. He doesn't want. Oh well, he's dead.
Yeah,
but it makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense that's where he went. So I need some more confirmation. Sorry.
Yeah, we need more confirmation. Which brings me to my next question. Is Epigraph Man the hero who failed? Or is Vin the hero? Or could anyone in theory be the hero? Questions.
The hero who failed is just the hero that comes before the hero that doesn't fail. There you go.
Delightfully nonsensical.
Yes. Just listen to it. Listen to it. Rewind. Just listen.
Everyone fails until they don't. Edison, I learned 99 ways not to make a light bulb, but I only needed one way to learn how to something. I'm butchering that. Anyway.
Where is my other star? A herdsman. Oh, one of the things that I was confused about, okay, is like one of the reasons that I was like, oh, it's not Rashek, was because she would have noticed the past self, or whatever self, the alternative self. She would have. I thought there would be more distinct characteristics that make him look like a Terraceman, but obviously enough time has passed that a Terraceman looks different in any case. So
yeah,
the height and just the build of the person, there are characteristics that are they are very different, and it does make sense. In world, they've been bred in a different way completely. They've literally got eugenics. So
yeah. 1,000 years will do that to you.
So but it makes sense that it'll be a Pac-Man. But the misdirect was great because we do know that the logbook man, he was also a simple man before he became a nobleman. So it made sense where it was at the time.
Gosh, just like every clue just rushed through my mind that moment that I saw it there on the page. So such a good reveal.
Was a great reveal. I enjoyed it. So even though, like, that's also what I said earlier in earlier episodes, where it's like, yeah, so cool. Even if we do figure out the mystery or whatever, having it confirmed is no less exciting. When you call it, it doesn't mean that you're like, oh, you see, it's so predictable. It's like, yay, look, I was right. That's all, actually.
Yeah, I mean, we've celebrated our called its. So
yes, but but that doesn't mean we don't enjoy figuring it out and being right and wrong and all of that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And this book is almost over. Anything else? What else? I mean, it's such a big. It's the end of the book with, technically last chapter. So
I think I covered more or less everything I had wanted to for this chapisode. We're going to go and do a blind read through of the epilogue. We'll finish it together. Go and subscribe to That Darn Kitteh. She's got a wonderful YouTube channel where she does diagram streams and gaming streams and a panel show where she talks about current events and
Anything
various
that comes to mind.
topics, whatever comes to mind, with a panel of really neat people, myself
Mhm.
included.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for tuning in and see you next week. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Good, bye.